Well, when I'm wrong, I will admit it. And I have to say, I was kind of harsh on these newer era Ken Smiths that were produced from about 2019, somewhere in there, till 2023, late 2023. And, these were produced for Ken by Brubaker. He needed a luthier because his previous luthier had passed away. None of the guys in the shop were trained on how to make them, so it was pretty critical that he find somebody quick that was local. Anyway, Brubaker stepped in and started producing the instruments. Of course, they still go to Ken, and he does all the setup work and makes the nuts and does all that, puts all the parts on them. And the electronics and the circuits hadn't changed. None of the hardware had changed or any of that. But what I noticed on these when they first came out was that there was some cosmetic variation from previous instruments. And I'd been using Smiths pretty much steady since 2020, and I've had many of them. I know them really well. I know the history and all the different models over the years. I've owned them all and enjoyed virtually every one of them. But when these came out, he had switched to a finish probably that was recommended by Brubaker. It was a simpler, easier to apply finish. It's just a one spray and go kind of thing. They basically put on a matte finish that's it's semi-opaque, and that's the problem. It really kept you from seeing the quality of the figure and the grain of the wood. You could get it, it's in there, you see some of the figure, but these would be on fire if they didn't have that finish. And, the finish was, never color sanded or anything like that. They just spray it and start assembly on the instrument. And that was something that you never saw on any era of Smith previously. So that was one of the things that turned me off, and I'm sure turned a lot of folks off, especially for an instrument in this price range. But I was also concerned about the quality of the construction. I was concerned about playability. I was concerned about whether the sound would be different. And I finally got the gumption to buy a bass from this Brubaker era, and this one is a 2020 BT Reissue 6-string, and the quality is really quite good. The fret job is probably the best on any Smith I've had. The neck quality is superb, and Ken told me the reason why the necks are so good is because they were made prior to the Brubaker era, and they're still continuing to use necks that were glued up back in the old days that have aged for years. And that's one of the things I love about a Ken Smith. He plans ahead. When he plans ahead, he's making sure that wood has had time to cure. Those necks get glued up. If there's any movement or twist that's going to occur, it's going to happen over those years that it sits, and then when it's carved, it's not going to do anything after that. And that's the other thing about this neck that I like better than on the older ones that I've had. Brubaker's carve on this neck is excellent. I have to say it's the best feeling Smith neck that I've had. It's very, very comfortable front to back. It's a little thinner than the old ones, a little less radiused. It's a little flatter in the back, but overall, it's an excellent neck carve. The body construction, it's excellent. There's really no issues there. What you do notice is Brubaker basically getting familiar with carving Ken Smith and not probably being fully versed with some of the earlier bases. His carving is a little less severe than on some of the bases prior to him getting to do production. So you'll notice that like the lower horn is a little less finessed. The curvature in here and the depth of this neck cutaway is a little less than you'd have on some of the earlier ones. But it's still there, it's still comfortable, it still works, there's no issues. Generally construction quality is very good. Of course, the hardware, electronics, circuit, none of that's changed, so you're not going to really miss any of that. As far as the tone, I got to tell you, this new version of the old BT circuit, the 3-knobber, it sounds exactly like the old 3-knob circuit. It's really amazing how this bass takes me back to basses made decades ago. That it really captures it. It sounds just like what you want from an old vintage Smith. And then with that, the DIP switches, you have the ability to modernize the tone if you want. But if you're looking for that old, early Smith tone, it is here in this bass. And the feel, the playability, I think, it just really captures that old Smith sound. The other thing I really like about it is this fret job. Whoever did the fret job did an excellent job, and better than what I was finding previously on the pre-Brubaker ones. I would always get to the 11th fret and it needed some touch-up. I like my action super low, and when it's that low, you really got to have the frets perfect. And for some reason, on almost every bass I had prior to this, I had to do a little mill work and get that fret down. It just was always an issue. But this, nothing. It's perfect. It doesn't buzz. It's the flattest, straightest neck I've had. So all in all, it really is a superb bass, and I have to go back on what I originally thought, that these just were not going to be of Smith caliber, but it is. I'm very pleased with the with that reissue design, shape, sound, everything. So don't be afraid to buy one of these basses that were made in this era. I don't think you'll be disappointed if you're a player. If you're looking for, absolute perfection and you're used to the old ones, it's going to seem a little less perfect, a little less shiny, a little less, figurey looking, even though I guarantee you this top and back are every bit as good as anything he's ever had for, that 5A Tiger Maple. But this finish is just a cosmetic issue that kind of turned people off and turned me off, I know. But that's something that's easily fixed if you want to. You can always sand this down, refinish it. You could probably even try and get the Stradivari gold finish that Ken did years ago. But overall a great bass, great feeling, great sounding, sustains forever. So it's a winner.